Chapter 2250, the Direct Line clan leader yelled, "Are you done wasting our time? What can you do with your group alone? Do you think you can be enemies of the whole independent state?" The Jiang clan exchanged looks with the people from the collateral branch and went to attack. However, Elder Shue's expression shifted. "Don't act rashly. There are explosives." Everyone was shocked. The martial arts union buried explosives everywhere beforehand. And they have heavy weapons. Elder Shui explained hastily. "Are you telling the truth?" a higher-up from the collateral ancient clans questioned. "Nonsense, would I joke about this kind of matter?" Elder Shui looked anxious. They made preparations ahead of time. Before the collateral ancient clans could respond, Si Xia whistled. Instantly, dozens of elite members of the martial arts union appeared around them with heavy weapons in hand. "You're mad!" Jiang Ying screamed. "I was a madman to begin with. So what is it?" "If you don't submit, I'll destroy you," Si Xia said. Aren't you afraid of the Arbitration Council's punishment?" a higher-up from the collateral branch asked Si Xia. "The Arbitration Council?" Si Xia was derisive. "Don't be impatient. After I dominate the independent state, I'll expand toward the other 11 states, and in the end, I'll eradicate the Arbitration Council and replace them." You're a lunatic and delusional." Jiang Ying rebuked furiously. "Whether I'm delusional or not, I don't need you to waste time here. Of course, if you all don't agree, I can bomb you all into smithereens." Si Xia smiled. Read more chapters at List Novel. Kam Yuanwan was pensive as she stared at Si Xia. Is he carrying out Grandpa's wish when he was alive? She finally understood something. Si Xia previously captured those leaders of the independent state to that remote island in order to bomb them. If things were like that though, what storm could a lone commander like him wage? "I've planted explosives around everyone's headquarters. How about I let everyone see some action first?" Si Xia mocked. "Don't. My wife and children are there." A leader turned deathly pale. Every single one of these martial arts union members held a heavy weapon in hand. If Si Xia was claiming he planted explosives, it was most likely the truth. Moreover, various faction leaders were hoping to be lucky and didn't participate in the war between the Direct Line and the collateral branch this time. If this lunatic detonated the explosives, the consequences were unthinkable. Si Xia, there are still people in many of the headquarters. If you bomb those headquarters, Yi Wanwan stared at Si Xia, her brows locked together. Si Xia shook his head and interrupted her, "That has nothing to do with me. I previously imprisoned these people on the island, but you just had to rescue them. Even if some people die from this, it's because of you. I'm not to blame." "Damn, I've seen shameless people, but I've never seen someone as shameless as you. You can shift the blame like this?" Big Dipper cursed. Nameless Nya looked at Yi Wanwan. "Did you use the ring to summon the members of the Rose of Death?" Yi Wanwan shook her head and quietly replied, "No. The Arbitration Council loathes the Rose of Death so much. If I summoned the members of the Rose of Death, wouldn't it be the same as slamming myself into the end of a gun? If the Arbitration Council learned about it, they'd probably pursue me vehemently again." Moreover, after Si Yihan learned about the origin of the ring, he warned her multiple times to not mobilize the Rose of Death's power during this war. "You didn't die before the battle started." Yi Wanwan considered using the threat of the Rose of Death, but she was different from the previous Rose of Death leaders. Her roots were in the independent state. If she was discovered by the Arbitration Council, she could bring harm to too many people. Paired with Si Yihan's warning, she gave up on this option completely. After contemplating things back and forth, Yi Wanwan didn't end up using that ring and didn't ask Big Dipper's mother to contact all the members of the Rose of Death. "You didn't mobilize the Rose of Death's power, huh?" Nameless Nya was pensive. It was obvious that the current Si Xia had gone completely mad and had zero regard for the Arbitration Council. In the independent state, using a firearm was an unpardonable crime, but Si Xia didn't care in the slightest. He has heavy weapons, but since the Rose of Death isn't an independent state faction, they can carry firearms and have a fighting chance. Otherwise, even if people from the Arbitration Council came, they couldn't do anything to him, Nameless Nye slowly said. The most vital people, Nameless Nye and Yi Shuihan, couldn't attack Si Xia. Yi Shuihan seriously stood by his promises and kept his word while Nameless Nye was under constraints since Ling Miao was still in Si Xia's hands. This is tricky now, Yi Wanwan frowned deeply. Yi Wanwan turned to Si Yihan and asked, Ajo, what should we do? No need to worry, Si Yihan replied softly. Yi Wanwan was rendered speechless. What kind of situation were they in? She still shouldn't be worried. I knew about everything he's been doing in secret, Si Yihan continued. And? Yi Wanwan was puzzled. I've already informed the Arbitration Council. If the situation gets to that point, they will take care of it, Si Yihan said. Yi Wanwan was dumbfounded. Si Yihan informed the Arbitration Council and asked them to resolve this situation. What qualifications did he have to inform the Arbitration Council? Could it be the Arbitration Council would send people simply because he told them to? It appears everyone does need a tiny punishment. Si Xia snorted and held the walkie-talkie by his mouth. Xiao Xia. Before Si Xia could say anything, an elderly man's voice was heard from afar. The newcomer wore a conical bamboo hat with a fishing rod in his hand and a basket on his back, as though he'd just returned from a fishing trip. Behind the elderly man was a silent man in black robes. Damn, it's Dead Man. Taoist devotee's expression changed when he saw Iceberg Man trailing behind the elderly man. Dead Man had gone missing ever since Nameless Nyat died. No one expected to see him in this time and place. Nameless Nye didn't look very shocked when he saw Iceberg Man again though. As the elderly man slowly walked forward, Si Xia demanded coldly, Who are you? This chapter is scrapped from Read Light Novel. The elderly man didn't say anything and simply removed the bamboo hat covering his head. After Si Xia saw the elderly man, his expression changed. You. Grandpa, you didn't die. This bag of old bones can still last a few years, the elderly man joked. Grandpa. When Yi Wanwan saw the elderly man's face clearly, she was also incredulous. Dad. Madame Nia was overcome with emotions. The elderly man first glanced at Madame Nia before turning to Yi Wanwan. Worryless, ever since you've returned to the independent state, Grandpa has been keeping an eye on you. Grandpa, you. I'm sorry, Yi Wanwan had thousands of words on the tip of her tongue, but she didn't know how to start. Everything that was happening right now had far exceeded Yi Wanwan's predictions. Brother didn't die, Grandpa was also still alive. Just what in the world happened back then? The truth, Grandpa, what in the world happened? Weren't you killed by Worryless Nye? Si Xia's face brimmed with disbelief when faced with the newly arrived elderly man. Killed by Worryless. Patriarch and Madame Nye's expressions shifted. How could that be possible? Father clearly just went missing for a long time, so how was he killed by Worryless? Dad, what's happening? Madame Nye questioned anxiously. The elderly man glanced at Iceberg Man behind him and said, Jingmu, you tell them. Iceberg Man. The elderly man's expression turned awkward. Forget it, I'll tell them. Back then, Worryless and I had an argument, so we were going to resolve it through a spar. If Worryless won, I would listen to her, but if I won, she'd listen to me. The elderly man gathered his thoughts and continued, however, during my spar with Worryless, due to various reasons, she accidentally injured me. The elderly man's gaze inadvertently landed on Nameless Nye. After I was injured, a black-robed man barged in and wanted to take my life. However, he spared me at the last minute and merely injured me fatally. The elderly man sighed. Dad, who did it? Madame Nye quickly asked. Yi Wanwan silently looked at Nameless Nye. That black-robed man was probably this brother of hers, wasn't it? However, in the end, he couldn't bear to attack fatally. It was me. Nameless Nya answered before the elderly man could respond. What? Patriarch and Madame Nya were startled and turned to Nameless Nya in astonishment. It wasn't Worryless Nya. It was Nameless Nya. How is that possible? Si Xia furrowed his brows deeply, stuck in disbelief. Back then, Grandpa went missing, leaving behind splatters of blood and evidence of a fight. After pulling up the surveillance, he discovered Worryless Nya stabbed Grandpa with a dagger. After that, Si Xia investigated Yi Wanwan's whereabouts and returned to China, only to discover Yi Wanwan had chosen to mask her memories since she couldn't endure the torment of her memories. Hence, Si Xia always thought it was Yi Wanwan who killed Grandpa and never expected the culprit to be Nameless Nya. How could you try to murder your grandpa? Madame Nya demanded grievously. He killed Ling Miao, Nameless Nya finally answered after a moment of silence. Even so, Nameless Nya still didn't kill Grandpa and merely left after seriously injuring him. Nameless, Grandpa had no other choice. The elderly man closed his eyes and solemnly said, "The arbitration council placed an inviolable order. If I didn't do as they said, the consequences would have been very serious. Plus, I didn't kill Ling Miao and brought her back to the martial arts union instead. She's been under treatment all along." Back then, Grandpa didn't have the courage to resist the arbitration council yet. It wasn't until Yi Wanwan inherited Ling Miao's ring and the arbitration council planned to harm Yi Wanwan that Grandpa truly made his decision and planned to overthrow the arbitration council, seal off the 12 independent states, and crown himself as the king. "I know. You saved Ling Miao," Nameless Nya said. Si Xia mentioned it earlier. Then Grandpa, what was the reason behind your disappearance? Also, if you didn't die, why didn't you appear this whole time? Si Xia hastily asked the elderly man. Persistent in your wrongdoings, the elderly man looked at Iceberg Man behind him. "It's thanks to Jingmu." "Him?" Si Xia examined Iceberg Man Amen. The elderly man nodded. "When I was grievously injured, it was he who saved me. These past years, I've been bedridden and unconscious, and my body hasn't fully recovered. However, because of the urgent situation this time, Jingmu had no choice but to use special methods to help me recover some energy, which is why I'm able to appear before you all now." "What kind of special method? Are there side effects?" Yi Wanwan asked immediately. Iceberg Man nodded. "There are some side effects, but it's nothing compared to this current situation," the elderly man replied without care. Yi Wanwan stared at Iceberg Man with scrutiny. Just what was his relationship with Grandpa? As though the elderly man detected Yi Wanwan's question, he said, "I arranged for people to stay by your brother's side and your side to help you both." Huh? Yi Wanwan was taken back. "Jingmu was the person sent to be by your brother's side while Wen Xiren was the person sent to be by your side," the elderly man replied. Si Xia didn't know about this either. "Teacher, long time no see," Wen Xiren stepped forward and bowed at the elderly man. "I always firmly believed that Xiao Feng had nothing to do with your disappearance and that you were still alive." Yi Wanwan looked at Wen Xiren, bewildered. "Didn't he hide too freaking deeply? The person who Grandpa sent to assist brother was dead man while hers was Wen Xiren. If Grandpa didn't tell her, she never would have known." "Nameless Nya, he actually told me that you probably discovered he was sent by me." The elderly man turned to Nameless Nya. "So you should probably also know that it was him who saved me and used Gu to treat me and help me recover, right?" "I do," Nameless Nya replied. Although his grandpa left the Nya family when he was still young and they didn't see each other often or share a deep relationship, his grandpa constantly kept him and his sister in mind and even secretly sent 2 people to their sides to help and support them. It was precisely because of this last entanglement that Nameless Nya didn't lay the last strike and spared him. "Unfortunately, you didn't give me a chance to explain back then and held great resentment against me, so I didn't even have the opportunity to tell you Ling Miao was still alive." The elderly man sighed softly. Nameless Nya looked at the elderly man and appeared to want to say something but couldn't utter a word in the end. "Grandpa, you're still alive. That's great. Grandpa, do you know? Your wish back then, I'm about to fulfill it. Grandpa, let's do it together. Xia excitedly said. Xia, why are you still persistent in your wrongdoings? Yi Wanwan shouted angrily. Persistent in my wrongdoings? Xia turned to Yi Wanwan. Sister. I blamed you wrongly. I'll apologize to you, but Grandpa's still alive. Don't tell me you want to betray us again. Take a look at yourself. As long as we're willing, we'll definitely have a chance of replacing the Arbitration Council. Yi Wanwan shook her head. The Arbitration Council was nothing but a name. What they wanted to change wasn't the Arbitration Council. It was the rules and system that had been passed down for hundreds and thousands of years in the independent state. Back then, whether it was the order to kill her or Ling Miao, it was placed by the previous president of the Arbitration Council. So many years had passed already, who knew how many times the president and the higher-ups of the Arbitration Council had changed? Can't turn back anymore. Even if they took thousands of steps back, the 12 independent states' current state wasn't easy. These fairly peaceful days were partially achieved through the Arbitration Council's hard work, so how could she destroy the 12 independent states' peace merely because of her selfishness? Xia, give up, the elderly man advised Xia. Grandpa. What are you saying? Xia was incredulous. This was your goal and dream, however, the elderly man shook his head. In truth, I've thought things through already. Xia, look at me. My family is in shambles, my granddaughter opposed me, my grandson hates me, and I ended up with a dilapidated body. Do you want to become like me? No. Xia shook his head. I worked so hard for so long. I plotted for so long, so how could I give it all up at a whim? Grandpa, as long as you're willing, we can immediately gain complete control over the independent state, then infiltrate the other 11 states. At that time, even the Arbitration Council couldn't do anything about us. To persuade his grandpa, Xia hastily added, moreover, Grandpa, if we don't do this, those tyrannical, unreasonable, and inhumane rules from the Arbitration Council won't be eliminated. Don't forget that sister is the current leader of the Rose of Death. The Arbitration Council won't spare her. The successive leaders of the Rose of Death all adhered to the goals of overthrowing the Arbitration Council and liberating the independent state, so they were considered an evil cult by the Arbitration Council and were top targets for eradication. Yi Wanwan was the current leader of this evil cult, so how could the Arbitration Council spare her? Madame Nia immediately said, we're here. We absolutely won't allow anyone to harm Wanwan. Xia snorted. Ha, the Nia family might be the leader of the 4 great clans here, but do you think the Nia family alone can resist the Arbitration Council? If it was possible, Grandpa wouldn't have staked everything on one throw and employed such a drastic method. The elderly man sighed lightly and said, Xia, the Arbitration Council has already rescinded its absolute kill order against Worryless. Xia was startled, a deep frown taking over his face. What? Otherwise, why do you think the Arbitration Council hasn't done anything despite Worryless having recovered her identity for so long? The elderly man asked. Impossible. No way would the Arbitration Council spare her. The elderly man slowly explained, it was an accident that Worryless obtained that ring from the start. It was just that the Arbitration Council wouldn't listen to any explanations back then and adamantly wanted to eliminate the matter at its roots. After so many years passed, Worryless had disappeared for so long and the Rose of Death didn't show any signs of resurging. A higher-up from the Arbitration Council was willing to be Worryless' guarantor and protected Worryless' life. Grandpa's words surprised everyone present, including Yi Wanwan. Yi Wanwan had no idea about all of this. Someone from the Arbitration Council protected her life? Someone who could have such enormous power definitely didn't hold a low position. Moreover, acting as her guarantor had responsibilities attached to that. Who would dare to use their life to vouch for her like this? I don't believe it. I don't believe it. Xia madly screamed. The elderly man grimly shook his head. In the beginning, perhaps Si Xia's goal was indeed about fulfilling his wish. But in the end, power had corroded his initial intentions. He couldn't turn back anymore. Si Xia had just finished speaking when a black silhouette flashed by. Si Yihan appeared in front of Si Xia. Slap! Before Si Xia could react, Si Yihan mercilessly backhanded his face. Stay here together, in the end, I'm still your ninth uncle. Si Yihan stared at Si Xia, who was caught off guard. Give up or else you will die. You. Si Xia fuming with rage between gritted teeth. Don't pretend to be my ninth uncle. You don't have that right. I'll say it again. Si Yihan was expressionless. Give up. At this moment, a fleet of black military off-road vehicles had driven onto the battlefield from the rear without notice. Everyone turned to the off-road vehicles that appeared abruptly with alarm. A second later, the vehicles stopped and 3 men and 1 woman stepped out of the vehicle in the front while a team of well-trained people dressed entirely in black rapidly descended from the other off-road vehicles behind it. Yi Wanwan narrowed her eyes. These people are... Nameless Nie's hands suddenly clenched into tight fists, and he muttered with a dark expression, the Arbitration Council. What? The Arbitration Council? Yi Wanwan's expression shifted. The leading 3 men and 1 woman appeared to be higher-ups from the Arbitration Council. The 3 men looked to be in their 40s or 50s while the woman looked fairly young, perhaps 30 at most. Yi Wanwan couldn't help but glance at the woman a few more times since the woman was simply too beautiful. However, her expression was very dark and chilly, forcefully destroying the prettiness of her face. Perhaps because the woman detected Yi Wanwan's stare, her gaze suddenly shot toward Yi Wanwan like a knife. The gaze contained extremely unfriendly hatred and disgust, sending chills through Yi Wanwan's heart. At the same time, warmth enveloped Yi Wanwan's hand and dispersed the chilliness inside of her. Read more chapters at List Novel. Yi Wanwan looked down her arm and discovered that Si Yihan had clasped her hand at some point in time, sending warmth from his palm into her body. Si Xia's face was dark as ink. The Arbitration Council, the extremely beautiful woman opened a thick book of legal codes, her eyes sweeping across everyone before fixating on Si Xia. She looked at him as though he was a corpse and expressionlessly said, Si Xia, you've violated the Arbitration Council's 36th law, hoarding a large quantity of firearms. Please come with us. Everyone was astonished. It wasn't until minutes ago that they learned from Si Xia that he had gathered a large stockpile of firearms and didn't hear a whiff of this before then, so how did the Arbitration Council get the news and arrive on the scene this quickly? Moreover, these 4 directors came from the Arbitration Council in full gear, so it was apparent they caught word of this long ago. There were 12 total directors installed in the Arbitration Council. They were the composers and protectors of all the laws of the independent state, so they were greatly revered. Normal matters didn't require their personal attendance, but this time, 4 directors came at the same time. Furthermore, one of them was the only female director, a member of the 12 independent states' strongest state, Yin Yuerong. Si Xia acted without any fear because he was planning to catch everyone unaware. He clearly didn't expect news to be leaked or the Arbitration Council to arrive at this moment. Insanity flashed through Si Xia's eyes. Ha, rules. Ridiculous. You're the Arbitration Council, huh? Since you came, then let's stay here together. Next to the woman, the slightly portly Arbitration Council director in a black suit with a head of white hair chuckled. Young man, it'd be best if your tone wasn't so arrogant. Fortunately succeeded in my task, let's try. Si Xia's gaze sharpened, and he raised his hand. Immediately, countless guns and cannons were aimed at the crowd with a swish. The expressions of everyone from the independent state dropped when they saw all the firearms. Damn! Si Xia was simply crazy. These weapons were enough to blast the entire independent state to nothing. Seeing how he managed to transport so many firearms and explosives despite the tight controls, it was apparent he had been preparing for a long time. If they really started fighting, they would really all die here. Si Xia coldly looked at the Arbitration Council and the factions of the independent state. I will give you one last chance, submit to me, or die. Everyone from the independent state looked at each other with panicked expressions. Shit! This madman. If we don't listen to him, he'll probably bomb everyone to death. Even the Arbitration Council can't resist these firearms. What should we do? What should we do? Si Xia lifted the gun in his hand and slowly pointed it at the portly director, his laughter deranged. Just watch. From now on, I will make the rules of the independent state. Then, he pulled the trigger. Ah! After a series of exclamations, the field turned silent, everyone draped under the haze of impending death. This man dared to kill even a member of the Arbitration Council. He was seriously insane. Si Xia. Yi Wanwan screamed in shock. After this shot, Si Xia wouldn't be able to turn back again. Everyone fearfully watched the slightly portly director. But a second later, the anticipated bloody scene didn't occur. The director remained standing, alive and well. The fired bullet didn't harm him in the slightest. Si Xia incredulously stared at the gun and successively fired several shots. However, this gun was like a toy, and the bullets didn't have any effect when it landed on people. An extremely icy glint flickered in Si Xia's eyes, and he threw away his gun and snatched a gun from his men. He madly shot into the crowd, but all the bullets that were shot out didn't cause an inkling of harm. The bullets were switched. These bullets were fake and didn't possess any destructive power. What? Impossible, this isn't possible. Si Xia tossed aside the gun in his hand and fumingly dialed a number before he roared crazily into the phone, "You shall, get your ass here. What's going on with these guns and bullets?" Yu Xiao was the vice president of the Martial Arts Union and was immensely trusted by Si Xia. He managed all of the weapons, but now, a problem arose with the weapons, which meant Yu Xiao betrayed him. The slightly portly director genially said, "I said earlier, young man, that you shouldn't be too arrogant." At that moment, a man dressed in a white suit wearing a silver mask calmly stepped out from the crowd. Si Xia murderously glared at the masked man. "You're a member of the Arbitration Council." He never would have expected his most trusted assistant would turn out to be a spy from the Arbitration Council. "Apologies, President," the masked man quietly said. Then the masked man marched toward the camp opposite Si Xia. Under everyone's gaze, Yu Xiao slowly stopped in front of Lord Azura, Si Yihan, and respectfully bowed. "Sir Director, I've fortunately succeeded in my task." Dissimilar people don, T become family. Si Yihan nodded and Yu Xiao promptly straightened himself before standing behind the man. Si Xia glared intently at Si Yihan, his scarlet eyes popping from their sockets. Si Yihan. Si Yihan. It was actually Si Yihan. He considered every possibility but still underestimated his ninth uncle. He was a mere step from success but he failed at the last hurdle. Yi Wanwan looked at Si Yihan then looked at the masked man who bowed at Si Yihan, her face stunned. Half a day passed before she regained her wits. "Ajio, you, what did Yu Xiao call Si Yihan just now?" "Director." Si Yihan was actually one of the Arbitration Council's 12 directors. Yi Wanwan's eyes shot open. You're a director of the Arbitration Council." This seriously was, dissimilar people don't become family. She thought she had enough alternate identities, but who would have expected her baby to hold up to her just as well? No wonder Grandpa said a higher-up from the Arbitration Council protected her. No wonder nobody could find those missing independent state leaders despite searching for so long, while Si Yihan managed to pinpoint the location of that island. It turned out he had a spy, the vice president. Yi Wanwan's emotions were very conflicted. "So it was you who acted as my guarantor? When did you join the Arbitration Council?" "Not long after you recovered your identity as Wurilisnya. I used some connections and learned about the Arbitration Council's absolute kill order toward Wurilisnya back then, so I used some methods and obtained a position as a director." "I'm sorry, I didn't mean to conceal it from you." There were many things that even he couldn't predict, so he didn't want her to worry. If she knew about it beforehand, she absolutely wouldn't consent to him doing this. Yi Wanwan, although Si Yihan didn't show it conspicuously, she faintly knew that Si Yihan rejected and loathed the arbitration council. Now though, he was willing to become a director of the arbitration council in order to protect her. Without her knowing, this man did so many things for her. Even though he painted things so lightly, how could it have been easy to advance to that position? At that moment, the chubby director turned to Si Yihan with a grin and said, "It's thanks to Director Si's strategic maneuvers and preparations ahead of time that we were able to avoid a catastrophe. Otherwise, the consequences would have been inconceivable." "You're too polite." "It was my duty," Si Yihan returned. After the polite exchange, the portly director turned to the arbitration council guards and commanded, "Take them all away." As Si Xia watched his plan evaporating into nothing, he dazedly stood in his spot, as though all the energy had been sucked out of him. He kept mumbling something to himself, his spirit apparently having left him. When Yi Wanwan saw this, her fingers reflexively clenched. Not only did he deploy firearms but he also did it on such a large scale. He didn't listen to their urging and refused to come to his senses. His punishment definitely wouldn't be light. However, at the last moment, Si Yihan had his spy swap out all of the bullets and explosives, which might have ended up saving his life at least. Si Yihan gently embraced her and comfortingly patted her back. All the dust had finally settled. Yi Wanwan greedily buried herself into Si Yihan's arms and was about to say something when she sensed something and a shiver ran down her back. She jolted and looked up at Si Yihan, furtively saying, "Baby, why do I feel like that beautiful older sister over there doesn't seem to be looking at me right?" "Older sister?" Si Yihan followed her line of sight. "Still very gentle." "That's right. It's that only female director from the arbitration council." "What's her name again?" "Oh right, Yin Rongrong." "Do you know her?" "Yin Yuerong," Si Yihan corrected. Yi Wanwan quickly nodded. Oh right, it's Yin Yuerong. This older sister is super famous. She's a ruthless character. I heard that she's specifically responsible for punishments. Ever since she took office, the current term has been the arbitration council's strictest term. Each of the 12 states fearfully has had their tails tucked between their legs and everyone is afraid of being invited by the arbitration council to have some tea. TSK, she's such a beautiful older sister, but she's so vicious. Every time Yi Wanwan said, "older sister," Si Yihan's expression turned a little stranger, but he didn't correct her in the end. Yi Wanwan continued, "I heard that she killed her cheating husband with her own hands and chopped him into pieces, gorging on his blood and feasting on his flesh. I heard she even killed her own son and ate him. Moreover, she's especially talented in using poison and is poisonous from head to toe, so other people would die from a mere touch. This is why no one dares to trifle with her despite her having such stunning looks." Earlier, Yi Wanwan noticed that nobody dared to stand too close to Yin Yuerong. As Si Yihan listened to Yi Wanwan, his expression became indescribable. "Where did you hear this information?" Yi Wanwan blinked. "It was just some hearsay, I think Big Dipper got it from some gossiping session." Si Yihan, Yi Wanwan looked at Yin Yuerong once, twice, thrice, and something sparked in her mind. Something was off. How strange. Why did this woman look more and more familiar? Yi Wanwan reflexively turned to look at Si Yihan and realized that this woman actually looked somewhat similar to Si Yihan. What's going on? Yi Wanwan immediately clutched Si Yihan's face. "Baby, don't be so gentle. Act more seriously and look at me more fiercely." Si Yihan didn't know what Yi Wanwan wanted to do but did as she said, making his expression slightly more solemn. Yi Wanwan shook his head. Nope, fiercer." Si Yihan was exasperated, his lips pulling into a line. Yi Wanwan sighed. "Can't you be fiercer? You're still really gentle. This is the limit." Fine, Si Yihan broke into a smile and looked at her. "What is it?" Yi Wanwan scratched her head. "Nothing. It's just, Why do I feel like Yin Yuerong looks kind of similar to you? It's probably my imagination. Si Yihan was briefly startled. It probably isn't your imagination. Yi Wanwan, huh? Yi Wanwan was conversing with Si Yihan when that extremely uncomfortable gaze shot toward her again, and the owner openly scrutinized her without any effort to hide it. Then Yin Yuerong said harshly, Miss Nya, is it? If I remember correctly, your name is still printed on the Arbitration Council's first-class absolute kill order. Although Ajio is acting as your guarantor, you still shouldn't be celebrating too early. Ajio vouching for you is only temporary, and you still haven't fully been eliminated from the Arbitration Council's absolute kill list. Every one of Yi Wanwan's pores felt uncomfortable from that woman's knife-like gaze. It really wasn't her imagination, this woman really was targeting her. Yi Wanwan's second reaction was in regards to how this woman addressed Si Yihan. Ajio? Wasn't this form of address too intimate? Si Yihan coldly stared at the woman without a trace of warmth in his eyes. Director Yin, whether my vouching for Yi Wanwan is temporary or not isn't up to you. You're overstepping your authority. Chapter 2259. The atmosphere turned awkward. The woman flew into a thunderous rage instantly, as though she heard something extremely unacceptable, and her features distorted. You unfilial son! How dare you speak to me like this? At that moment, the portly director walked over to play pacifier. Ahem, all right. Why can't this mother and son pair speak nicely? Yi Wanwan's eyes were about to fall out of their sockets. Mother and son. Yin Yuerong's actually Si Yihan's mother. Cough. A choking fit seized Yi Wanwan. Yin Yuerong is your mom. Si Yihan was silent for a moment before responding, I'm no longer related to her. Yi Wanwan felt miserable. In other words, she truly was his mom. Damn. She actually gossiped with Si Yihan about his mom over here for so long. The atmosphere turned awkward immediately. Yin Yuerong seemed to not want to lose her composure in front of outsiders, so she forcefully repressed her rage. We're going. Halfway to the vehicle, the woman suddenly turned around. All the harshness had disappeared from her face, and she softly looked at Si Yihan. Ajio, mommy's good son, I've given you a chance. Don't force mommy, alright? At that moment, the woman's expression could be considered extremely gentle, but it caused people's hair to stand on end when this gentleness appeared on that ageless, beautiful face. When Si Yihan heard the woman, his aura darkened almost immediately. Yi Wanwan felt the hand around him clenching abruptly to the point of making her bones hurt. Yi Wanwan peered down and took his hand into hers instead. Only then did Si Yihan gradually relax. This crisis that nearly toppled the independent state had finally been resolved. The direct line acted like they were afraid of Yi Shuihan unleashing his wrath on them and retreated from the battlefield as soon as they saw the Arbitration Council taking away Si Xia and his cohort. After that, the collateral branch also quietly withdrew. Then all the groups and the four great clans successively departed. On the enormous battlefield, Shuihan stood in the center all by himself, emptiness and numbness written all over his face. His closest people became his greatest enemies. There wasn't anything more laughable, ridiculous, and mocking than this. Yi Wanwan herself was in shambles and didn't know what to say to comfort him, so she decided to have Tang Tang go and comfort him later. Patriarch and Madame Nya appeared to be rather worried about their son. Madame Nya grasped Nameless Nya's hand and said, Son, let's go home, all right. Nameless Nya looked at his parents, his younger sister, and his grandpa. As he looked at his family, the darkness in his eyes dissipated little by little. Si Yihan glanced at the vice president, Yu Xiao, and Yu Xiao nodded in understanding. He walked toward Nameless Nya and said, Young Master Nya, I'll take you to see Miss Ling Miao. Nameless Nya's eyes brightened instantly, and he hastily responded, How is she? Quickly bring me to her. Si Yihan spoke up, Don't worry. Si Xia was originally intending to use her to constrain you, so he wouldn't harm her. As for the Arbitration Council's rules, in truth, many people are discontent about them already, so I will think of a solution. But I still need to seek someone out, so I can't give you a definitive answer regarding whether the amendment proposal will pass or not for now. Nameless Nye's gaze was complicated as he glanced at Si Yihan. In the end, he sighed and clapped Si Yihan on the shoulder, saying in good humor, "We're all family, so I won't say thank you to you." Si Yihan broke into a smile. That line was the best thanks. When Patriarch Nye and Madame Nye heard this, they looked like they wanted to say something, but they ended up not saying anything. Chapter 2260. Although Patriarch Nye and Madame Nye never really liked this man, it was he who protected Wanwan this time and also stopped a major battle. However, they never expected Yin Yuerong to be his mother. And that woman actually treated their daughter like this. Even if someone were to object to this marriage, it should have been them who objected first due to Yin Yuerong's terrible reputation, right? At that moment, a black minivan drove over from the distance. Lin K got out of the car and opened the back doors, revealing a comfortably decorated interior with drinks and snacks thoroughly prepared. Si Yihan said to Yuanwan's parents and Grandpa, "Grandpa hasn't fully recovered from his serious injuries yet, so he can't stand for too long. Let's all get in the car first." Only then did Patriarch Nye and Madame Nye snap out of it and hastily walk over to support him. Nye Huili looked at Si Yihan, his tone courteous and formal. "We won't trouble Mr. Si." He then turned to his father-in-law and said, "Dad, it was our oversight. Wait here for a moment, I'll immediately send a car here." Although the elderly man had experienced life and death and detached importance to many things, he still couldn't dispel his prejudice toward this son-in-law. "No need." Nye Huili stood there awkwardly and Madame Nye also didn't know what to say. The elderly man looked at Si Yihan, imperceptibly surveying him. His expression eased a little and he said, "Let's go." When Nye Huili saw how his father-in-law received Si Yihan so well, dejection filled his heart, but he wasn't in any place to say anything. Si Yihan quickly walked over and carefully supported the elderly man. "Grandpa, watch your feet." Yuanwan also hastily walked forward to support Grandpa's other side. "Grandpa, walk more slowly." When Yuanwan saw that minivan, she was rather surprised. Since when was Si Yihan this suave? He obtained Grandpa's approval and acknowledgement. He had found a great support pillar. Yuanwan had Nameless Nye follow Yu Xiao to visit Ling Miao while she took care of Grandpa and took him home. Although Grandpa put it lightly, that special method he used must have been very risky and probably caused great harm to his body. Yuanwan was worried and hassled Iceberg Man for a long time, but that guy would only nod or shake his head and she didn't get a single answer. Yuanwan nearly couldn't resist prying open his mouth with a wrench. "Grandpa, is he mute?" Yuanwan furrowed her brows. The elderly man shot the girl an admonishing look. "Jingmu merely doesn't like to talk. Stop questioning him." That method was a little risky, but thankfully, everything went without mishap and I'm fine. Read more chapters at List Novel. Yuanwan stared at the elderly man's familiar face and watched as he sat in front of her, alive and well and speaking to her. Tears started to fall uncontrollably. This chapter is scrapped from Read Light Novel. Yuanwan knelt down in front of him. "Grandpa, I'm sorry." The elderly man helped the girl up, his expression sorrowful. "It wasn't your fault. Grandpa was too radical and impulsive back then. He placed all of his hopes onto his daughter, but his daughter was married to his archenemy's son. For many years, he had been soured by the loss of his hopes, and problems had risen with his psyche. He understood well that the matter with Worryless back then was merely the trigger." The elderly man looked at Si Yihan. "What's your name?" Si Yihan quickly replied, "Si Yihan." "Grandpa can call me Ajio." The elderly man solemnly asked, "The man who Worryless secretly dated behind my back was you?" Si Yihan's expression became nervous. "Yes." The elderly man looked more serious. "And you and Worryless have a child?" This time, Yuanwan's expression also changed. She swallowed her spit in a panic. "Ahem, Grandpa, it's not his fault." As Yuanwan and Si Yihan nervously faced Grandpa's question, the room door was opened with a catchak and a small figure entered. Baby Tang Tang stood by the door and gluttonously called out, "Mommy." Chapter 2261. Are you telling me you don't want to take responsibility? At the door, Lin K, who brought Tang Tang over, surveyed the serious atmosphere in the room and roughly understood the current situation. No wonder ninth brother had him bring Tang Tang over as soon as possible. It turned out he was using his son to put out the elderly man's fire. Lin K gave Si Yihan an okay sign with his hands before quietly sneaking back out. As soon as Yi Wanwan saw her precious baby, she sent him a pitiful expression and mouthed, "Baby, help." Tang Tang immediately leaped into Yi Wanwan's arms and comfortingly patted his mommy's back. Then the little fella turned to the elderly man on the hospital bed, blinking his large eyes. "Mommy, is this great-grandpa?" Yi Wanwan nodded frantically. "That's right. Come on, baby, say hello to great-grandpa." Tang Tang obediently said at once, "Hello, great-grandpa." The little fella stood there with his clear and innocent eyes, large as dark grapes, and looked like he walked out from a New Year picture. His cuteness was indescribable. On the sickbed, the elderly man hadn't recovered from the child's sudden appearance and dazedly stared at the fair and porcelain-like child in front of him. This is that child. What's his name?" Yi Wanwan hastily answered, "His name is Nye Tang Xiao, Tang from noble appearance and Xiao from secluded solitude." Baby Tang Tang pouted, his expression looking discontent. "Mommy, isn't it sweet and sour pork chops?" He preferred sweet and sour pork chops. The elderly man looked suspicious. "What sweet and sour pork chops?" How could Yi Wanwan allow Grandpa to find out that she named her kid this casually? She quickly made an excuse. Nothing. Baby is asking whether you want to eat sweet and sour pork chops or not. I'll make it for you tonight." Thankfully, the elderly man didn't think too much of it and beckoned at the little fella. "Tang Tang, is it? Come here, come to great-grandpa's side." The little fella walked over, his eyes sparkling as though he'd seen his idol. "Are you really great-grandpa?" "Of course," the elderly man replied without missing a beat. "My mommy said you're really awesome, great-grandpa. Can I learn martial arts from you later, great-grandpa?" "Great-grandpa will definitely teach you personally." The old and young duo quickly struck a conversation. Perhaps skipping a generation did make people closer. Grandpa was exceptionally kind and patient in front of Tang Tang, and the atmosphere finally wasn't as frightening. Some time later, the elderly man sighed and exasperatedly glanced at Yi Wanwan and Si Yihan nearby. "All right, don't be so nervous. I said before that I don't want to stick my nose into you young people's business. It's good as long as you're doing well. Anyway, your child is so big already." Then the elderly man's gaze turned strict. "Tang Tang is so old already, but are you two still planning to spend your days like this? Aren't you planning to get married?" Yi Wanwan was dumbfounded by her grandfather's abrupt question. "Huh? Get married?" The elderly man's expression darkened instantly. "What? Don't tell me you don't want to get married. In the past, it was fine that you screwed around every day outside without a proper job, but you can't continue partying like this even if it's for Tang Tang's sake. Furthermore, Ajio's character is quite decent. Don't tell me you don't want to take responsibility." Si Yihan stared at Yi Wanwan intently. Yi Wanwan was stupefied by her grandfather's onslaught. "Damn. Grandpa, what are you saying? What do you mean I don't want to take responsibility? Isn't there something wrong with your thinking?" Chapter 2262. The elderly man harumphed. "What's wrong about that? Do you think Grandpa doesn't know your personality? Everything about that is wrong. In a normal situation, you should be questioning the man who abducted your granddaughter, right?" Yi Wanwan indignantly grumbled. "So you also think that'd be a normal situation?" Yi Wanwan didn't want to say anything else. Yi Wanwan signed in resignation before looping her arms around Si Yihan's arm and grinning. "I'll take responsibility, of course I will. Why wouldn't I? Of course we'll get married. It's just that too many things happened recently, one after another. Otherwise, I would have abducted him to hold a wedding already." As Si Yihan listened to her, he felt electric currents running through his heart. After Grandpa heard that, his expression finally eased, but he became absent-minded as he seemed to have recalled something. If he wasn't too stubborn back then or vehemently wanted to prevent his daughter's marriage and ran away from home, perhaps things wouldn't have ended up like this. Right now, nothing was more important to him than his family's happiness. But Grandpa, there's still a big issue. My parents have a slight opinion against Ajio and disapprove of us being together. You also know that Ajio is the leader of Azura and also one of the major heads of prison, so my parents think his reputation isn't that great, that he isn't a good person and that he'll bully me. In truth, the reality isn't like that. Everything people are saying outside is rubbish. So we might need you to help us talk to my parents later, Grandpa, Yi Wanwan quietly implored. Now that the problem with Ajio's mother arose, she was afraid her parents would be more disapproving. The elderly man glanced at his granddaughter and dryly commented, "You say that like your reputation is good. Your reputation is even worse than Ajio's. What right do they have to dislike him?" Yi Wanwan, is he really my real grandpa? Si Yihan patted the girl's crestfallen head. Grandpa, worryless is very good. It's me who isn't worthy of her, so I can understand uncle and auntie's worries. Yi Wanwan couldn't help but peer at Si Yihan, both moved and astonished. Si Yihan's way with words was improving exponentially. The elderly man was clearly very satisfied with Si Yihan. Eventually, he seemed to have realized his granddaughter was a girl alas and cleared his throat before saying to Si Yihan, "Ajio, I also have to remind you that since I've handed my granddaughter over to you, you can't allow her to suffer any grievances regardless of who it is or what it is. Do you understand me?" Si Yihan knew what Grandpa was worried about. Understood. I'll take care of everything. After this conversation ended, baby Tang Tang considerately requested to stay behind to keep great-grandpa company. Yi Wanwan and Si Yihan left the room. This chapter is scrapped from Read Light Novel. Yi Wanwan immediately turned to Si Yihan and asked, "Damn, Si Yihan, just what in the world did you do? Why does my grandpa like you so much? And he even lectured me, his real granddaughter." Si Yihan's expression remained unruffled. Really? Yi Wanwan became angry. Of course he does. You have to understand my grandpa's attitude toward my dad, then compare it to his attitude toward you. Then you will understand the saying, there's no harm without contrast. If my dad knew how well grandpa treated you, he'd probably be infuriated to death. It's seriously so strange, why does my grandpa like you so much? Si Yihan replied, it's probably because a father turns valuable because of his son. When Yi Wanwan heard Si Yihan seriously saying, a father turns valuable because of his son, she nearly spat. What the heck was, a father turns valuable because of his son? Chapter 2263, Si Yihan looked into the distance and absent-mindedly said, Wanwan, it's nearly time for the Arbitration Council's yearly summit. I need to go to Tianshui City for a period of time. During the summit every year, the Arbitration Council would discuss important matters and revise all the rules of the 12 independent states. Yi Wanwan frowned when she heard that. A conference, if the Arbitration Council was meeting, Yin Yuerong would definitely be there too, and Si Yihan's mother, Yin Yuerong, lived in Tianshui City. Yi Wanwan couldn't help but be worried. Although she didn't know Yin Yuerong well, she knew that woman definitely wasn't simple merely judging from Si Yihan's caution toward his mother. Furthermore, what Yin Yuerong said with a faint smile before she left truly made the hairs on the back of her neck stand up. Si Yihan paused and suppressed the nervousness that swiftly flitted through the bottom of his eyes. However, his expression looked as apathetic as always as he asked extremely calmly, when I return, we'll get married. Yi Wanwan, whose mind had gone on a road trip, immediately looked up and nodded enthusiastically. Sure. As Si Yihan looked at the girl's sparkling eyes, his heart returned to its place and his taut lips also turned up into an extremely bewitching smile. He pulled her into his arms and pressed a kiss on the corner of her lips. Yi Wanwan blinked, not understanding Si Yihan's reaction. Say, baby, why are you so excited? Isn't it guaranteed that I'd agree? At that moment, Lin Kei's eerie voice drifted from behind them. Ahem, excuse me, there's still someone here. Yu Wanwan turned to peer at Lin Quebec. Oh. I know. You're glowing so brightly, so how could I not have seen you? Lin Kei, since she saw him, couldn't she have some consideration for this single man's feelings? Lin Kei silently stood there, rendered speechless. He suddenly thought of something and hesitatingly looked at Si Yihan, unable to stop himself from asking in the end, ninth brother, are we really going back to Tianshui City? That's Auntie Rong's territory. What if we go and don't return? Before Lin Kei could finish speaking, a severe glance from Si Yihan made him choke back his words. Yu Wanwan originally didn't intend to ask too many questions, but it really wouldn't do if she didn't ask at a time like this. Ajio, just what is the matter, between you and your mother? Si Yihan was truly very wary of Yin Yuerong. His expression changed the second this person was mentioned. After a brief silence, Si Yihan said, Wanwan, I don't want to lie to you. My mother's very dangerous. During the next few weeks, try not to go out alone, and Tang Tang too, don't let him go to school for now. I'll have Jiang Yan follow and protect you too. The reason he had to return to Tianshui City was to negotiate with mother. Yi Wanwan frowned. That's serious. Do you really have to go back? I can't skip this conference. Then I'll come with you. Yi Wanwan suggested. No. Si Yihan rejected immediately. Lin Kei caught his ninth brother's glance and cooperatively joined in the persuasion. Ninth sister, Auntie Rong actually isn't that scary. She didn't chop her husband into pieces or skin her husband's lover or boil her son alive. Look at how ninth brother is still alive and well. The rumors are all false. Don't believe them. Chapter 2264. Haha, Yu Wanwan was aghast. Lin Kei was better off not explaining, his contribution merely made her more worried. Si Yihan solemnly said, be good and stay here while you wait for my return. If you come with me, I'd have to take you into consideration, and it'd be more inconvenient to do things. Judging from Si Yihan's attitude, he definitely wouldn't allow her to go. When Yu Wanwan thought about it, she really didn't have any confidence in pacifying the entity that was her mother-in-law, so she'd produce the opposite of the desired result if she went. Thus, she could only nod. All right then. If anything happens, you must tell me immediately. Okay. Yi Wanwan raised her brows. Then our wedding ceremony will be held after the summit concludes. If you don't come back then, don't blame me for barging over there to abduct you. Si Yihan broke into a chuckle. That won't happen. Even though he would look forward to that very much. Big Dipper sprinted over with a brown paper bag. Sis Feng, I've written down the thing you wanted. Also, I've given the order to inform you as soon as there's news of Emperor Ji. Don't worry. Si Yihan's expression didn't appear to change, and he merely glanced at Big Dipper. Yi Wanwan's spine stiffened though and her expression changed instantly. She glared at Big Dipper. All right, I'm not deaf. Talk more quietly. Then she cleared her throat and hastily turned to Si Yihan and cautiously explained, since there wasn't any news of Ji Shuran after we left the island, I told them to keep an eye on it. Don't overthink it. Si Yihan aloofly replied, in your eyes, am I that unreasonable a person? Yi Wanwan retorted, ha, you aren't. You aren't in the slightest. You're so reasonable, and I've never been drowned by a sea of vinegar. Si Yihan, Yi Wanwan chuckled dryly and took the document bag from Big Dipper. Hey baby, since you're going to attend a conference, help me bring this there while you're at it. What is it? Si Yihan asked. Yi Wanwan answered with a grin. It's my litigation letter to sue the Direct Line for violating our contract. Oh right, if they aren't willing to accept the punishment, they can also provide monetary compensation. I don't mind, ha. Si Yihan glanced at the fox-like girl and gently patted her on the head. Okay, I'll help you aim for the highest compensation. Yi Wanwan immediately jumped up to kiss Si Yihan. I love you the most. Big Dipper became flabbergasted and mused in exclamation, I used to actually think Lord Azura was too uptight and didn't match my sis phone, but looking at them now, they really match each other too well. Read more chapters at List Novel. Calm Lin K piped in, you might have had some misunderstanding regarding my ninth brother. The most important summit of the 12 independent states was about to convene. Si Yihan quickly headed toward Tianshui City. At the entrance to Tianshui City, the sky gradually darkened. A black car had just parked. Before they could display their entry permit, they were surrounded by a group of people. In the dim light, the leader, a young man wearing a uniform and military boots, marched to the front of the black car and coldly said, Young master, this way, please. Madam is waiting for you. The young man's face was icy like a robot and lacked any expression. His entire person was akin to a blade gleaming with blood, and by merely standing there, he caused chills to pervade people's hearts. Inside the car, Lin K peered outside the car and nearly started crying. Oh my god, it's Wei Ziqian. It's over, ninth brother. Auntie Rong has even dispatched the iron guards. I told you we shouldn't have come back, Auntie Rong is definitely waiting to capture you. Aren't we sheep walking into a tiger's den? The second Lin K recalled Auntie Rong's extremely beautiful face, his legs started trembling, and he even couldn't look directly at ninth brother's similar face. Vixen and Vile spawn in the night, the dark and gloomy manor was akin to the mouth of an enormous beast. The manor was vast but barren. Rumors claimed not even a blade of grass grew in Yin Yuerong's manor due to the giant poisonous laboratory inside of it. Everyone in the manor stood in their spots with their heads downcast and their expressions numb and icy. They were like lifeless puppets. The entire manor was as dead silent as a graveyard without a decibel of noise. Lin K followed behind Si Yihan with great trepidation. Ninth brother, how about I wait outside for you? Sure, but I can't guarantee your safety once you leave my line of sight, Si Yihan replied. Never mind, I'll follow you. I'll follow you. Ninth brother, go more slowly. Don't leave me behind. Inside the conference room, when a servant brought them tea, Lin K hastily picked up the cup and gulped some tea down out of nervousness but spat it all out a second later. Cough cough cough, he was truly mad for daring to drink something here. If he was killed by poison, where would he go to seek justice? After waiting a while, Yin Yuerong didn't appear but another person arrived. Yin Heng, Lin K became cautious the second he saw the newcomer. The newcomer was dressed in a casual leisurely outfit, and his martial expertise could be seen from his actions. A young servant trailed behind him. Yin Heng walked over with an affable expression. Eldest brother, long time no see. In contrast to Yin Heng's enthusiasm, Si Yihan aloofly glanced at the newcomer, treating him like air. Yin Heng appeared accustomed to Si Yihan's reaction and didn't say anything. However, the servant behind him indignantly exclaimed, Young master is finally back. I didn't expect young master to go to this extent for a woman, it's truly surprising. Back then, Madam had the highest expectations for young master. If this was in the past, how could a mere servant treat Si Yihan like this? However, everyone knew that the Yin family's power had shifted, and Yin Heng, the adopted son, was the true future master of the Yin family while Si Yihan had been tossed aside. Si Yihan remained silent, but Lin K rolled his eyes at the servant. If it wasn't for that, do you think Auntie Rong would have laid eyes on your master? Don't play coy when you've reaped the gains. You make it sound like we wanted to come back. When Yin Heng heard this, his eyes glinted but his expression remained unruffled. The servant was confident in Yin Heng's support and urgently wanted to ingratiate himself with Yin Heng, the future family head, so he brazenly said, if you didn't want to, then why did you come back to Tianshui City? Allow me to remind you that Madam's fury won't be so easy to extinguish this time. Lin K, I think you should advise young master. If young master wanted to sincerely admit his wrongs, how could he have come empty-handed? He should have at least brought the heads of that vixen and vile spawn here, bang. A soft sound came from Si Yihan setting his teacup back on the table. At the same time, the atmosphere in the living room chilled in the blink of an eye. Swish. In the next second, Yin Heng slapped the servant's face before Si Yihan could do anything. The servant's cheek swelled greatly and a front tooth fell out. What insolence! Get out! Who allowed you to act so rudely toward eldest brother? Yin Heng angrily admonished. Yes, the servant retreated, aggrieved. Lin Ke pursed his lips. How pretentious. It's not like Auntie Rong is here, who are you acting for? Chapter 2266, 2266. The sound of footsteps was heard from behind and Yin Yuerong, dressed in black, walked out unhurriedly. You were finally willing to come back. What is it? Did you finally come to your senses? Yin Yuerong quietly asked after taking a sip of tea. Si Yihan glanced at the woman and apathetically said, I merely came to inform you, worryless, and my wedding is next month. In the next second, Yin Yuerong smashed her cup onto the ground. Several shattered pieces flew up and headed straight towards Si Yihan, slashing a bloody line against his neck. So you're adamant about disobeying me? Merely because of that woman and a vile spawn? Yin Yuerong's expression turned savage. When Si Yihan heard the words, vile spawn, icicles shattered in his eyes. Watch your words. Yin Yuerong chuckled lightly, her beautiful face contorting from her extreme fury. Ajio, I told you, don't force me. Mommy doesn't want to make you marry a corpse. Lin Ke sharply detected that Si Yihan might look composed, but a crack clearly appeared on the cup in his hand. Si Yihan's face was icy. You can try. Yin Yuerong chuckled. Ha, you've truly grown full-fledged. Ajio, you used to never disobey mommy's words. That time, you were still young and so obedient. Even though I made you drink an intestine-perforating poison, you still listened obediently. However, ever since that woman appeared, her son had walked out of her control step by step. Now, he even snuck into the arbitration council behind her back and played guarantor for that woman and started shaking down her power in the shadows. When Lin Ke, who had been trying his best to minimize his presence, heard this, he couldn't help but scoff in his mind. What was she saying? What normal mom would make her real son consume intestine-perforating poison? Yet, his ninth brother was an oddball and would trust Yin Yuerong absolutely. Even after discovering it was poison and suffering agonizing pain, he still obediently consumed it a second time, a third time, and a fourth time when she told him to. Merely because she was his mother. Yin Heng imperceptibly peered at the hostile mother and son duo before saying, Eldest brother, mother is merely thinking about your well-being. Before Yin Heng could continue, a bone-chilling gaze suddenly shot toward him, making him feel like he was choked by the throat and unable to utter another word. Si Yihan looked away from Yin Heng. You already have an heir, so why did you need me to come back? Yin Yuerong smiled gently. It's different, of course. You're mommy's most perfect creation. When Yin Heng heard this, his eyes flashed imperceptibly. A derisive smile flickered across Si Yihan's face. Is that so? You're flattering me. Ajio, mommy's good son, you have too little experience in romance and you're too naive in romantic affairs. You were merely deceived by that woman. How many women have you seen? Why do you want no one else but her? Yin Yuerong scoffed. Ha, that worryless Nya actually used a child to tie you down. How did you fall into such a cheap trick? Perhaps in an attempt to appease him, Yin Yuerong gently continued, Ajio, mother is good friends with Vice President Qin, and he has intentions to connect to our family by marriage. Vice President Qin's daughter is extraordinarily talented in martial arts, and she's the most beautiful woman in Tianshui City. Each generation of their clan has held high positions in the arbitration council. Which one of her qualities isn't stronger than some country bumpkin from a peripheral state? She's the best. As long as you marry Miss Qin, you will rapidly advance to the peak of the independent state. In the future, your child with Miss Qin would possess perfect genetics. Only a child with Miss Qin is worthy of possessing your genetics. Ajio, why don't you understand mommy's well-meaning intentions? Love is the most useless and cumbersome thing in the world. The only thing you should pursue is power. Towards the end of her speech, Yin Yuerong's eyes carried an insane and possessed fervor, sending shivers down people's spines. When Si Yihan saw the extremely familiar madness on Yin Yuerong's face, all of the memories repressed in the darkest part of his brain rushed out like a wild beast bursting out of its gates, causing a splitting headache to tear through his head. Ninth brother. Ninth brother, are you all right? Lin Kei's face brimmed with worry when he detected something wrong with Si Yihan's expression. Si Yihan lifted his hand with reassurance before imperceptibly turning on his phone screen. His phone wallpaper was a family photo of him, Yi Wanwan, and Tang Tang. The emotions that nearly shredded and swallowed him gradually settled, and Si Yihan put away his phone before slowly saying, "She's the best and doesn't need to be compared to anyone. My children will only be mothered by her." Before Yin Yuerong could finish, a bloodthirsty chill flitted through Si Yihan's eyes as he interrupted her. "Director Yin, don't attempt to touch her and our son. Otherwise, I can't guarantee what I'll do." After Si Yihan left, the entire Yin residence was torn apart. He actually dared to treat me like this." Yin Yuerong appeared to have sunk into a deranged madness. "Calm down, mother. Eldest brother is just being bullheaded for now." Yin Heng comforted her from the side. "Anyway, mother, you still have me. Aheng will never betray you. Read more chapters at List Novel." Calm Yin Yuerong carelessly tossed a jade token to him and coldly said, "From today onward, you'll manage the Iron Guards." Yin Heng's eyes brightened. "Thank you for your trust, mother. Don't disappoint me or else I can retract everything you currently possess at any time." "Don't worry, mother, I absolutely won't. I will fulfill your wishes in eldest brother's place, mother." Yin Heng swore seriously. Yin Yuerong murmured, "Good son. This is mommy's good son." After leaving the ancestral Yin residence, the Yin family boarded a luxurious car. From the back seat, Yin Heng asked his assistant, "Have you obtained Miss Qin's schedule?" "I have. I've emailed it to you." "Great. I heard that young master has returned, so what? Do you think he still has a position in the Yin family now?" "You're right." In a bedroom in the Yin residence, the aged female steward sincerely comforted Yin Yuerong from the side. "Madam, don't worsen your health with your rage." Yin Yuerong pinched her forehead and ordered with a dark expression, "Make arrangements to create some opportunities for Ajio and Miss Qin. I won't believe that my son's taste is that awful and can't differentiate between a fish's eye and a pearl." "Madam's right. I'll make arrangements right now. Young master merely hasn't seen Miss Qin. Once young master does, he'll definitely be tempted with Miss Qin's looks." The female steward continued to report, "Oh right, madam, I discovered that Yin Heng has been secretly approaching Miss Qin." "Do you need me?" Yin Yuerong didn't appear surprised in the slightest. "No need. Let him do what he wants. I'd like to see how far he can go. If he truly can satisfy me, I don't mind switching sons." "Go to use the beautiful man plot." The stewardess hesitantly said, "Madam, you shouldn't act in your rage. After all, your only child is young master, so what? This child is truly like his father. I shouldn't have birthed him back them." Seeing that her master was too emotional and wouldn't listen to reason, the stewardess had no choice but to stop providing any further advice. While leaving, Yin Yuerong suddenly called out, "Hold on, punish that insolent servant." Her son wasn't someone that a servant could treat disrespectfully. The stewardess quickly answered, "Yes." Sigh, madam was still protective in the end. "Oh right, madam, there's one more matter." The stewardess seemed tentative. Yin Yuerong was irritated. "Speak your mind." "I heard Miss Nia mothered a son for young master, and he's 4 or 5 years old already. That child is connected to young master by blood after all. Should we bring him here?" the stewardess inquired. Fury flickered through Yin Yuerong's expression before disgust settled. "Put away your ridiculous thoughts. He's merely a bastard. You delusionally think he should enter the Yin residence?" "I overstepped," the stewardess said. At a mansion in Tianshui City, the second Si Yihan reached his accommodations. He started taking care of business. In the study, Yu Xiao entered to report, "Sir, Si Xia has been detained and his trial will be held after the summit." Si Yihan nodded and looked up from a tall stack of documents. "Has President Yi returned yet?" Yu Xiao shook his head. "President Yi is giving lectures outside and hasn't returned yet." "Inform me immediately when he returns," Si Yihan ordered. "Yes," Yu Xiao said. "Sir, based on my information, President Yi and Vice President Qin are good friends. If you want to pass the new bill, I'm afraid you have to strive to win President Yi's support. Yi Lingjun has a towering prestige in the independent state, and he has pupils everywhere. In the arbitration council alone, 3 of the 12 directors are his disciples, and even Director Yin reveres and admires him immensely. If we obtain his support, the new bill is basically passed. Unfortunately, at least Vice President Qin has a weakness in his daughter whom he spoils like a treasure, but President Yi is childless and doesn't even have a partner. Forget about children, but he doesn't even have a personal disciple. He's truly hard to entice. We must come up with a method that'd make President Yi side with us, or else our chances of succeeding truly wouldn't be high," Yu Xiao continued. Si Yihan furrowed his brows. This was the matter that currently worried him the most. Lin Ke pursed his lips. Yi Lingjuan's martial talents are top-notch and his disciples litter the entire independent state. He devoted his life to teaching and educating people, and he's a person of virtue and prestige who lives like a saint. How could we entice someone like him? Moreover, judging from Yi Lingjuan's personality, he's probably rather traditional and will most likely align with Auntie Rong's party. They won't pass the new bill easily, Lin Ke continued. Solemnity enveloped Si Yihan's face. We have to try at all costs no matter what. Yu Xiao's eyes sparkled before he proposed, President Yi is too upright and truly impossible to entice. Actually, if you can obtain Vice President Qin's support, sir, it'd be the quickest method. Otherwise, if your foster brother takes the initiative, we'd have the lower hand. According to my information, Yin Heng is already attempting to befriend Miss Qin. Lin Ke raised his brows, his expression shocked. So you want to have my 9th brother deploy the beautiful man trap? You're seriously gutsy. Aren't you afraid of a certain person piercing a giant hole in the independent state in her rampage? Yu Xiao coughed softly, rendered speechless. This a matchmaking dinner? Yu Xiao said, the formulation of new rules will be a great pioneering move that will change the independent state's history. An achiever doesn't bother with trifles. This subordinate thinks that Miss Nia is responsible, experienced, flexible, and considerate, and isn't an unreasonable person. Furthermore, a great reason behind why you're doing this is for her, so if you discuss it with her appropriately, I'm sure Miss Nia will understand. Lin Ke was stupefied by what he heard. Responsible, considerate, and reasonable. Why do you have such a frightening misunderstanding of that woman? Before Yu Xiao could respond, Si Yihan spoke up. Don't mention this method again. Yu Xiao began, but, sir, perhaps she could understand it, but I can't do it, Si Yihan replied. Since Si Yihan said that, it wasn't Yu Xiao's place to say anything more. Lin Ke was at a loss for words as he listened to Si Yihan and Yu Xiao's conversation. Just who gave you the misconception that Demonis would understand, huh? Your thoughts were wrong from the start, alright? At that moment, Si Yihan's phone started ringing, and the caller ID said it was Vice President Qin. When Lin Ke peeked at the phone screen, he was astonished. Why is Qin Zong calling 9th brother? Si Yihan briefly glanced at the name on his screen and quickly answered. Hello, Vice President Qin. Director Si. You arrived in Tianshui City today? Yes, I arrived in the evening. Great, great. I reserved a restaurant to give you a welcoming tomorrow. You're too polite. Ha, it's rare for the Arbitration Council to have such an outstanding youngster, and I love to befriend capable people like Director Si. So it's set then. See you tomorrow, Director Si. You must come. Of course. Si Yihan hung up. Yu Xiao spoke up, before we could act, Vice President Qin sought us out first. It appears Vice President Qin is leaning toward you more than Yin Heng, sir. Lin Ke said, Qin Zong isn't stupid. Ninth brother is Auntie Rong's biological son, after all, so he's safer than an adopted son no matter how you look at it. Ninth brother, are you going? Lin Ke asked. Si Yihan didn't respond and merely stared at his phone, lost in thought. He was going, of course. It was just. The next day, at the most high-end restaurant in Tianshui City, sitting in the chief seat was Vice President Qin, but Qin Zong didn't come alone. Sitting to his left was a fair and slender girl with extraordinarily outstanding looks. From the door, Lin Ke caught sight of the people inside and became stunned. Damn! Why is eldest Miss Qin also here? How is this a reception dinner? This is probably a matchmaking dinner, right? Lin Ke grumbled to himself. Si Yihan also didn't expect Qin Zong to bring Miss Qin with him. His steps paused and his brows imperceptibly knitted. Nephew Si, you're finally here. Come in quickly, let me introduce you to someone. As soon as Qin Zong saw Si Yihan, he enthusiastically welcomed him inside and led him to his daughter. Nephew, allow me to introduce to you. This is my daughter, Qin Shiyuan. Yuan, this is the new director I mentioned to you before, Si Yihan. He's young and promising, and he's your Auntie Yin's son. Mr. Si, hello, nice to meet you. I've always wanted to meet you, so when I heard father mention that you came to Tianshui City, I begged him to bring me with him. You don't mind, right? Qin Shiyuan said gracefully with a faint smile on her face. My fiancé is there at the table. Qin Zong and Si Yihan discussed some unimportant business matters. When he saw the atmosphere easing up, he purposefully led the topic to Qin Shiyuan. My Yuan has been traveling everywhere and only returned to Tianshui City recently. Qin Zong said. Qin Shiyuan asked with apparent nonchalance, Oh right, Mr. Si, since you're from Tianshui City, why do you still live in Yun City? Si Yihan's fingers gently tapped on the white porcelain cup. He calmly replied, It's unimportant where I'm from. My fiancé is in Yun City. Lin Ke was curiously pressed against the door slit. When he heard this, respect rose in his heart. Ninth brother was awesome. As expected, the faint smile on Qin Shiyuan's face stiffened a few degrees before quickly returning to normal. She changed the topic. Is that so? I just returned to Tianshui City, so I don't have a lot of close friends. I spend my days practicing martial arts and archery skills the most, but I also dabble in medicine. May I ask what your hobbies are, Mr. Si? Since Auntie Yin's medical skills are so impressive, I'm sure Mr. Si has surpassed her. When do you think you'll have time to study it together? The eavesdropping Lin Ke clicked his tongue. She started dipping into hobbies and interests. Si Yihan's expression remained unchanged. I don't do anything special. I just help my son train in martial arts and archery and read with him. Qin Shiyuan, Qin Zong, Ko. Two mere sentences and Si Yihan killed the conversation. In the end, the dinner concluded with a strange atmosphere. Qin Zong looked displeased. That punk, I didn't expect him to be so impertinent. He didn't believe Si Yihan had no clue about his intentions for inviting him to dinner today. Qin Shiyuan didn't look angry though and laughed. I rather like him though. I've seen too many men throwing themselves at me, they make me want to throw up. This one is quite different. But this guy has an illegitimate child already, and his demeanor is apathetic. Judging from his personality, he definitely wouldn't know how to sweet-talk you in the future. Are you sure you like this guy? Read more chapters at List Novel. Calm Qin Shiyuan nodded. It's just that I heard his fiancé isn't someone to be trifled with. Qin Zong looked derisive. As long as my precious daughter likes something, I'll even pluck the stars from the sky. Anyway, it's just some clan from a peripheral state. Regardless of which man you like in the entire 12 independent states, Dad will make him listen obediently. After all, no one would dare to steal a son-in-law from him, the vice president of the arbitration council. Thank you, Daddy. I know you're the best. Remember to help me create some opportunities. Alright, just don't forget your dad once you have a boyfriend. Of course I won't. This chapter is scrapped from Read Light Novel. Org. After leaving the restaurant, Si Yihan had just entered the car and hadn't settled yet when his phone started ringing. It was a call from Yi Wanwan. Si Yihan's expression flashed, and he paused. A few seconds later, he answered the call, his tone the same as usual. Hey, Wanwan. Baby, is everything going well on your end? Yi Wanwan's energetic voice emitted from the phone. Si Yihan nodded. Everything is going well. Don't worry. A stream of cars was outside, and several honks sifted through the car window. Yi Wanwan suspiciously asked, it's so late. You're still outside? I had a business dinner. Business dinner? With who? Yi Wanwan purposefully asked, dragging out her words. A member of the arbitration council. Male or female? Yi Wanwan pressed. His survival instincts are simply. When Lin K heard this question, his heart skipped a beat before his heart rate quickened. They better not let that little ancestor find anything out. Both male and female, Si Yihan replied. There are women. What do they do? She was related to the arbitration council's vice president. Oh. How old is she? Is she pretty? Nearly 40. I didn't pay attention to her looks. Yi Wanwan seemed to finally be assuaged. Alright, it can't be helped since it's seriously too dangerous for you to be in Tianshui City by yourself. What if you catch someone's eye? Si Yihan, Lin K thought, he's already caught someone's eye. Ajio, I'm telling you. Gong Su sent me a message yesterday to help him choose a script, and then I found an especially melodramatic script. The male lead's mother didn't like the female lead and didn't want them to be together. To break them up, she arranged for a prettier girl to seduce the male lead, and then, TSK, the male lead couldn't withstand the test. And that made me think of us. Our situation is practically identical. When Lin K, whose ears were perked up, heard that, his heart raised to his throat. He nervously turned to Si Yihan. Si Yihan's voice managed to stay composed. That's just a script. Such a thing wouldn't happen in reality. Yi Wanwan instantly retorted, why wouldn't it happen? This might be a script, and the story might be very melodramatic, but it's extremely possible it'd happen, alright? There can't be a girl better looking than you, Si Yihan stated. Yi Wanwan, Lin K, Yi Wanwan said, hee, baby, I like it when you speak the honest truth. After Si Yihan said that, Yi Wanwan was completely placated and elatedly kissed the phone before ending the call. Lin K was amazed as he listened to this couple's conversation. Ninth brother's survival instincts were simply. There wasn't a problem with any of the answers, but he managed to avoid the important things and dwell on the trivial with every answer. What made it even more remarkable was that he actually said Qin Shiyuan was nearly 40. However, Si Yihan also said he didn't pay attention to her, so you couldn't say he was wrong for not knowing the age. Those final sweet words were the cherry on top. Lin K couldn't help but muse that ninth brother had dramatically improved in a certain area after getting a girlfriend. After hanging up the call, Si Yihan pinched his brows, releasing an obvious sigh of relief. He uneasily managed to pacify Yi Wanwan and made her obediently wait for his news, so he naturally couldn't tell her about the events tonight. This minor trouble would be resolved very soon. He believed that Qin Zong would change his mind after he expressed his attitude clearly. He knew that this decision would greatly increase the difficulty of his future plans, which was why he didn't intend to take the Qin Zong method. However, this time, Si Yihan hadn't anticipated an even trickier situation to arise. The next day, early in the morning, Qin Zong brought Qin Shiyuan to the Arbitration Council's office building for a tour and learning experience. Qin Shiyuan not only studied the 12 independent states' laws thoroughly but was also well versed in the laws of the other countries in the world, so she had the title of senior consultant in the Arbitration Council. Qin Zong evidently wanted to elevate her to the position of director too. In the hallway, Qin Shiyuan was surrounded by a gathering of employees like planets revolving around the sun. However, Si Yihan was currently inside the archive room on the top floor, so Qin Shiyuan didn't run into him despite walking through the building once. It wasn't until nighttime that Qin Shiyuan caught him at the entrance. The sky has collapsed. Director Si. Qin Shiyuan immediately called out. Si Yihan paused in his steps. Miss Qin. I heard Director Si has recently been arranging law proposals and suggesting great reforms. I've been wanting to discuss them with you. Are you free tonight? Qin Shiyuan extended the invitation with a charming smile and a confident expression. Qin Shiyuan's suggestion was clearly very enticing. In other words, if you wanted to pass the bill, she'd be of great assistance regardless of how you looked at it. I am not. Si Yihan didn't consider it for even 1 second. What about tomorrow night? Qin Shiyuan was persistent. In contrast to his careful deliberation of every word when it was Yi Wanwan, Si Yihan was evidently too lazy to even make an excuse when it was Qin Shiyuan. Hence, Si Yihan directly glanced at Lin Quebec. Lin K had no choice but to clean up after him. He cleared his throat and said, I'm truly sorry, Miss Qin. The director has been busy with preparations for the summit recently, so he really doesn't have any free time. At the continual rejection, the smile on Qin Shiyuan's face finally ebbed. Perhaps Director Si doesn't know, but your adopted brother, Yin Heng, has been asking me out recently. Director Si is a smart person, so you should know what that means. If he married her, he'd advance smoothly in his career. Moreover, she was the most beautiful woman in Tianshui City, so there wasn't a man in the 12 independent states who didn't want to marry her. Hence, if she chose Yin Heng, Si Yihan would lose his right of inheritance and might even ruin his career path. At the same time, in the Yin residence, how are things? Yin Yuerong had a teacup in hand. Madam, Miss Qin looks fondly on the young master, but unfortunately, the young master, I knew it. He's been bewitched to the point of losing all logic by that wild girl. He'll willing to forfeit his clan and future for a mere woman. After some hesitation, the steward furtively said, Madam, actually, Miss Nie's family background is decent. I also heard that her performance in Scarlet Flame's Academy was excellent too. Although her personality is a bit eccentric, young master has a reticent personality, so he'd be a good contrast. Since young master and Miss Nie are earnestly in love with each other, why must you separate them? You're deepening young master's misunderstanding toward you for nothing. When Yin Yuerong heard that, it was like she'd heard some absurd joke. Earnestly in love with each other? Love is the most ridiculous and fake thing in this world. I told him 1,000,000 times, but he insists on walking my old path. Ah, madam, even if you punish me, I have to say this. Your thoughts are truly too radical. Young master isn't you. He might not follow the same old disastrous road, Yin Yuerong snorted. Ha, sure. Then I'd like to see how deeply in love they are with each other and how great a test they can withstand. Late at night, in a mansion on the outskirts of Tianshui City, Si Yihan spent the whole night taking care of business affairs. In the early morning the next day, Lin K suddenly rushed into Si Yihan's study, his expression looking like the sky had collapsed. Ninth brother. It's over. We're truly dead this time. Lin K was gasping for air with a newspaper in hand. Si Yihan had dark circles under his eyes from staying up all night. He continued to read the documents without looking up. Lin K couldn't be any more hasty. Ninth brother, stop what you're doing. The sky is about to collapse. Hurry and look at this newspaper. Si Yihan finally looked up, glancing at the newspaper Lin K was handing to him. The next second, Si Yihan's expression changed. She's been cheated on. A giant photo was plastered on the front page of Tianshui City's daily newspaper. It was a photo of Si Yihan dining with Qin Zong and Qin Shiyuan that night. The headline read, Tianshui City's #1 beauty and the newly promoted director meet the parents. Marriage near. Shit. Shit. What's worst is that this piece of gossip has spread throughout all 12 independent states. Lin K gulped with a panicked expression. In other words, ninth sister must know she's been cheated on. As Si Yihan stared at the front page news, his aloof expression finally shattered. It just had to be this photo. Moreover, the date and time of this photo were marked clearly. That night, Wanwan happened to call him, and he didn't tell her the truth so that she wouldn't misunderstand and worry. If she saw this newspaper and learned he lied to her, the consequences were unimaginable. Meanwhile, in Yun City, Yi Wanwan was accompanying Grandpa and fishing in a lake. Worryless, go elsewhere and have fun, alright? You keep moving about and scaring all my fish away. Fine. I won't move, I won't move. Forget it. Your mind isn't calm, so how could you get any fish? Grandpa gave her a meaningful look. You miss Ajo? I miss him. Yi Wanwan nodded without any reserve, a dog's tail grass between her teeth. Worry was predominantly on her mind, worry that his mother would make things difficult for him. Unfortunately, before he left, she solemnly promised that she would obediently wait for him, so all she could do now was wait for his news. As Yi Wanwan conversed with Grandpa, Big Dipper, 7 Star, First Elder, Third Elder, and Fu Mingxi were secretively gathered together nearby. They shoved each other and quarreled incessantly, nearly breaking into a fight. Third Elder, Big Dipper, you were the one who first heard this news, so of course it's you who should inform the president. Big Dipper, you rotten old man, do you want me to die? Such a dangerous task should of course be given to the person best at martial arts here. Everyone's gaze landed on First Elder. First Elder instantly said, I think that Third Elder is intelligent and resourceful and has a shrewd tongue, so having Third Elder relay it would be the most sensible. Third Elder immediately pointed at First Elder and cursed. Don't talk nonsense. When I went to my physical exam last time, the doctor said I had signs of Alzheimer's disease. I think 7 Star is the most suitable since he's most trusted by the president. Big Dipper spat at Third Elder. Old 7 talks so directly and doesn't know how to bend his words at all. By making him go, are you trying to send chaos into the world? I think we should forget it, we better not tell her. After all, none of us wants to die, right? Big Dipper's words received unanimous agreement on this rare occasion, except for Fu Mingxi. No way. Aren't we keeping the president in the dark? No way, we must inform the president and let her see that scum's true face. Fu Mingxi exclaimed emotionally. Then you go. Go and tell her. Big Dipper returned. Fu Mingxi, I won't go. I still have to live so that I can stay by the president's side. What are you guys talking about over there? I can hear you all. Yi Wanwan had walked over unbeknownst to them. When the group heard Yi Wanwan's voice, they jolted in fright and all kept their eyes downcast, no one willing to speak. Just what happened? Yi Wanwan asked. The calmness of the legitimate wife seeing as none of them were willing to talk, Yi Wanwan could only name someone. Big Dipper, speak. At being called by name, Big Dipper had no choice but to walk forward with a miserable expression. He scratched his face, dithering for an eternity before finally pointing at the grass underneath Yi Wanwan's feet. Sis Feng, look, what are you stepping on? Yi Wanwan was dumbfounded. I'm stepping on grass. Big Dipper pointed at the nearby leaves. Sis Feng, look at the color of these leaves, aren't they especially, Yi Wanwan finished his sentence for him, lush. Big Dipper nodded frantically. That's right, that's right. The grass, the leaf. They are both so lush and so green. Veins popped on Yi Wanwan's forehead and she served him a kick. Speak, human. Big Dipper immediately howled, Sis Feng, you've been cheated on, 1. Yi Wanwan, after 3 seconds of silence, Yi Wanwan looked at Big Dipper with a baffled expression, unable to understand his meaning. What are you saying? At this moment, Fu Mingxi cautiously walked up and handed her a phone. President, see for yourself. Yi Wanwan quickly clicked the screen and skimmed it. She was met with that gigantic newspaper headline and the photo paired with the article. Big Dipper, Fu Mingxi, and the others held their breath as they intently watched Yi Wanwan's reaction and involuntarily took a step back. As Yi Wanwan read the article, she recalled how she called Si Yihan during the time mentioned here. Si Yihan clearly said the woman at the business dinner was nearly 40. Now though, there was both a picture and the facts, which meant Si Yihan purposefully concealed this from her. Swish. Yi Wanwan lifted her hand. Sis Feng, calm down. Big Dipper jumped up in his fright. Yi Wanwan peered at him from the corner of her eyes and tossed the phone toward him. What are you screaming about? Isn't it just some gossip article? Sis Feng, aren't you mad? Big Dipper asked weakly. Fu Mingxi also piped in. President, have you become muddled from your rage? Yi Wanwan leaned her shoulder against a nearby tree and nonchalantly patted the trunk of the tree as she said, what's there to be angry about? It's obviously groundless, fake news meant to catch people's attention. Third Elder and First Elder met each other's eyes, evidently not expecting their president to remain this calm. You're brilliant, President. You're absolutely right. Third Elder immediately echoed ingratiatingly. First Elder also looked comforted her and mused, you're becoming more and more like a leader, President. Fu Mingxi incredulously asked, but President, a photo was published. If it was just a normal business dinner, why would Vice President Qin bring his daughter along? And there's only the three of them. It's definitely a case of meeting the parents. Do you really not mind, President? Yi Wanwan snorted, carrying the calmness of the legitimate wife. It's unavoidable for men to encounter this type of situation when they attend social functions. What's there to mind? In your eyes, am I someone who turned the world upside down without any care just over a minor matter? Fu Mingxi, Big Dipper, First Elder, Third Elder, wasn't she? Yi Wanwan waved her hand. All right, disperse, all of you. It's just a rumor. I don't like to get jealous for no reason. After Big Dipper and the others ascertained that Yi Wanwan really didn't intend to wreak havoc, they finally relaxed. Only 7 Stars shifted minutely and glanced at the tree trunk that their president touched earlier. On the side of the tree trunk was evidently the deep indent of a handprint, 7 Star, 1, green is slang for being cheated on in Chinese. Did you take the wrong medicine? President, are you really not angry? Fu Mingxi pressed again, unwilling to give up. Yi Wanwan irritatedly waved her hand. Stop the noises and go play elsewhere. Is your president the same as those unreasonable and annoying women who pester endlessly and cry their eyes out, threatening to hang themselves? Don't you all have some misunderstanding about me? Ahem. You're right, President. At Tianshui City, when Si Yihan saw the news article, he wanted to give Yi Wanwan a call. But as soon as he picked up his cell phone, it started ringing. Yi Wanwan had called him first. Lin Kei's hair stood on its end. It's over, Si Yihan calmed his mind and pressed the answer key. Wanwan, before Si Yihan could finish speaking, he heard Yi Wanwan say in an especially gentle tone, baby, don't worry and you don't need to give me an explanation. I won't rashly misunderstand or wildly get jealous. Focus on doing your own thing, and don't worry about me. Si Yihan, and so, Si Yihan swallowed back everything he wanted to say. You aren't mad? That night, I'm not. They definitely tricked you so that they could create conflict between us and achieve some ulterior motive. No way would I be duped. Alright, I will talk to you later. I'm fishing with Grandpa. On the other end of the phone, Yi Wanwan said cheerfully as she crushed a piece of rock under her feet. She wasn't mad. She wasn't mad in the slightest. Si Yihan. After the call ended, Lin Kei, who had leaned close and heard the whole conversation, was dumbstruck. Ninth brother, did ninth sister take the wrong medicine? Why is she suddenly so understanding and reasonable? Si Yihan didn't say anything, clearly also not anticipating Yi Wanwan to be so calm and continue to fish with Grandpa as though nothing happened. Yu Xiao entered at this moment. I said before that Miss Nia wasn't unreasonable. Lin Ke grumbled in bewilderment. Did she really change her personality? Yi Wanwan wasn't mad at all. Si Yihan peered down, inexplicably feeling an emptiness in his heart before promptly gathering his emotions. He looked at Yu Xiao. Did something happen? Yu Xiao quickly reported, I just got the news that President Yi has returned. Prepare the car, Si Yihan ordered. Yes. Meanwhile, Yi Wanwan returned to the mansion and handed over the alliance's business affairs to 7 Star. She did a little packing before going back downstairs and telling everyone, I'm going on a trip to Tianshui City. Call me if anyone comes up. The second Yi Wanwan finished speaking, everyone's nerves turned taut. Big Dipper tentatively asked, Sis Feng, you're going to Tianshui City? Yi Wanwan raised her brows. Yeah, what about it? I can't go. First Elder and Third Elder met each other's eyes. First Elder swallowed his spit before asking, President, why are you going to Tianshui City? Are you going there to find Lord Azura? What First Elder didn't dare to say was, she really is going to crash the scene after all. Yi Wanwan retorted, who said that I have to go see him just because I'm going to Tianshui City? I'm going there to travel. Third Elder fearfully stared at the Tang backsword that Yi Wanwan carried everywhere. Why are you bringing silence if you're traveling? Silence was the name of this Tang backsword, which was once used by Yi Wanwan's grandpa. Back at the charity auction banquet, Ji Xiuran won it. Later, Ji Xiuran tasked Autumn Water to give this backsword to Yi Wanwan. Yi Wanwan patted the body of her backsword. It's just protection. Fu Mingxi then sharply detected the liquor jars in Yi Wanwan's backpack. President, what about that liquor? I'm not drinking any, I'm giving them to someone. Can't I do that? Yi Wanwan responded. Fu Mingxi. Bring me with you, woof woof woof. Fu Mingxi stared at Yi Wanwan, wanting to say something but ended up tactfully closing his mouth. No matter how you looked at this, the president didn't look like she was going on a vacation. She looked more like she was going to catch a cheating partner in the act then chop the adulterous couple into pieces. When Fu Mingxi thought of that, his eyes sparkled and he hastily said, the president is doing the right thing. Hack that adulterous couple into pieces and feed them to the dogs. What did you say? Yi Wanwan furrowed her brows. Nothing. He was just asking if you wanted to bring a dog with you for your trip. Big Dipper clutched Fu Mingxi's mouth. This idiot might not want to live, but they still wanted to live, alright? Why did he have to touch a sore spot? Why would I bring a dog? Yi Wanwan glanced at Big Dipper. Big Dipper mulled it over for half a day but truly couldn't find an appropriate response, so he grinned and said, Sis Feng, bring me with you. Woof woof woof. Yi Wanwan, the independent state's purebred Alaskan Husky title was truly justified. That day, Yi Wanwan led a group of fearless alliance members and rushed to Tianshui City in a whirlwind. As soon as Yi Wanwan arrived in Tianshui City, she couldn't help but shake her head in marvel. The major city of the strongest state in the 12 independent states was extraordinary indeed. The only city that was comparable was probably China's most prosperous imperial city. Every corner here exuded the feeling of luxury. Super sports cars littered the streets, and Yi Wanwan actually couldn't name any of them. Yi Wanwan even forgot she was currently in the independent state. Damn, our state really can't compare to this state's Tianshui City. None of our cities can hold a candle. Ah, Sis Feng, I don't want to go back. I want to slowly rot in the decadence of this colorful city, Big Dipper exclaimed as he surveyed his surroundings. Yi Wanwan glanced at Big Dipper. It won't be easy to rot in decadence, so how about you rot into a corpse? I can fulfill that wish right now. Big Dipper turned silent as he stared at the Tang backsword in Yi Wanwan's arms. He suddenly smiled. Sis Feng, what's good about this lousy place? If I stay in this city for too long, I reckon my martial arts would waste away. This city is an entire galaxy inferior to our Yun city. Read more chapters at List Novel. Nonsense. Fu Mingxi rolled his eyes at Big Dipper. My grandfather said that Tianshui City isn't a place Yun City could compare to. The headquarters of the Arbitration Council is located here. Their current president is named Yi Ling-jun, and he's the head of the Yi clan. You should know the Yi clan, right? They're the strongest and also oldest martial arts patrician clan in the 12 independent states. This chapter is scrapped from Read Light Novel. There really isn't anyone who doesn't know the Yi clan in the 12 independent states. Third Elder nodded in agreement. The current head of the Yi clan is especially extraordinary. Is he really strong in martial strength? Yi Wanwan asked Third Elder with a tilt of her head. Yi Wanwan had only heard of the Yi clan and didn't know them well. If the Yi clan claimed to be number 2 in terms of prestige in the 12 independent states, no other clan would dare to claim to be number 1. They were a genuine, great martial arts patrician clan. President, this isn't a matter of martial strength. The main point is that their theoretical foundation is very strong and they have a profound repertoire of knowledge. The current head of the Yi clan is a true well-respected great scholar and often gives lectures on the outside frequently, Third Elder said. So what you're saying is that the Yi clan knows how to talk glibly. Yi Wanwan was pensive. Third Elder's expression changed, and he shook his head. That's not what I meant, President. Moreover, the current head of the Yi clan isn't only strong in theory but is also extremely strong in terms of strength. None of you are unfamiliar with the old man, He Lianjue, right? Public enemy number 1. At the mention of He Lianjue, Yi Wanwan's lips twitched. Back then, she provoked He Lianjue somehow, and he followed her wherever she went, forcefully wanting to take her in as his personal disciple. She merely never agreed. After all, she had Grandpa already, so there was no way she would acknowledge anyone else as her master. Who doesn't know He Lianjue? He's an old freak and loves to challenge people the most. Regardless of whether a group provoked him or not, as long as there's someone strong among them, he'd go to cause trouble and challenge them. What's most infuriating is that after he defeats them, he calls them trash. And what's even more infuriating is that there hasn't been anyone who has defeated him yet. And of course, they can't out-curse him either. In the 12 independent states, He Lianjue is simply public enemy number 1, Big Dipper explained. Yi Wanwan agreed very much with what Big Dipper said. Her thoughts drifted to the past. She didn't provoke He Lianjue at all but was sent crashing to the ground by him and called a piece of trash. Back then, Yi Wanwan wished nothing more than to skin He Lianjue, but she wasn't a match for him, and the difference between their strength was too enormous. Later, He Lianjue said she had decent potential and hassled her to become his disciple. Several years ago, before Yi Ling-jun became the president of the Arbitration Council, the Arbitration Council sought out Yi Ling-jun and hoped he could eliminate He Lianjue. People said they fought for 3 whole days but still couldn't determine a winner. Since he was able to come to a draw with He Lianjue, the strength of Patriarch Yi was apparent, Third Elder added. Yi Wanwan was well aware of He Lianjue's strength. She was beaten so terribly even when she fought with piece of shit. Moreover, no one in all of the 12 independent states has seen He Lianjue's face. Every time he appears, he's wearing a mask, so He Lianjue's true appearance is still a major mystery in the independent states right now, Big Dipper said. Yi Wanwan nodded in great agreement. Forget about them, but even she hadn't ever seen He Lianjue's true appearance. Every time they met, He Lianjue wore that terrifying mask. However, Yi Wanwan might say He Lianjue was an old demon, but she admired him greatly. They weren't master and disciple in name, but He Lianjue taught her many things. Do you think Yi Shuihan is related to the Yi clan? Yi Wanwan suggested pensively. First Elder smiled faintly. They aren't related at all. Yi Shuihan's surname is from a collateral branch of our state's direct line, while Yi Lingjuan's surname is a true noble surname. They can't be compared at all. Third Elder, First Elder. Yi Wanwan's expression turned serious. The 2 elders walked forward immediately. The two of you, go and scout the Yin residence for me, Yi Wanwan instructed. The Yin residence. Third elder was startled. President, which Yin residence? Yin Yuerong's, Yi Wanwan clarified. First elder and third elder's expressions changed simultaneously. President, I think that a task like this can be completed with just one person. First elder looked at Yi Wanwan. Third elder is talented and courageous as well as adaptive and multi-talented, so I think third elder alone would suffice. Before Yi Wanwan could say anything, third elder hastily said, No, President, amongst us, first elder is the strongest and he's also the first elder, so I think that this important task belongs to no one but first elder. Yi Wanwan was dumbfounded. They merely had to scout the situation in the Yin residence. Did these two really have to shove each other to the front like this? Tract, third elder, you have to be confident in yourself. You can easily accomplish this task, first elder encouraged. First elder, as people commonly say, you don't need a sledgehammer to crack a nut. No wait, it's don't try to fix porcelain without a metal clamp. I don't have the metal clamp, but you do, so you're the one to go, third elder retorted with a snort. What kind of cosmic joke was that? Who didn't know Yin Yuerong was a poison master and had poison covering every inch of her home? He didn't want to die without knowing the cause, so whoever wanted to go could go, but he wouldn't go. Say, I think you two, Yi Wanwan was expressionless, should change your names to Shingongbao. President, what do you mean? Third elder was confounded. What do I mean? Yi Wanwan pursed her lips. Do you need to ask? Better a friend to die than me. Third elder was still confused. Ha, haven't you read Investiture of the Gods? It's that Shingongbao who sends other people to their deaths every time. Big Dipper broke into guffaws. Third elder, first elder, the two Taoist Shens, I think you should go together so that you can look out for each other. I'm not telling you to sneak into the Yin residence, you just need to scout for the Yin residence's current situation. And so, first elder and third elder had no choice but to agree. Big Dipper secretly said to Fu Mingxi, Damn, isn't Yin Yuerong Sis Feng's future mother-in-law? Sis Feng was saying she didn't care, but she's now scouting her future mother-in-law's house. Judging from Yin Yuerong's personality, she will probably be a difficult person to get along with. Sigh, this relationship between mother and daughter-in-law will be very tense in the future, Fu Mingxi responded quietly. What are you saying? Yi Wanwan asked. Nothing. We were just discussing what to eat tonight. Big Dipper chuckled. After first elder and third elder left, Yi Wanwan was about to lead the others elsewhere when she sensed something and frowned. Read more chapters at List Novel. Calm Big Dipper's expression also changed. Sis Feng, someone's following us, 7-star said. Whether you're human or a ghost, reveal yourself, Yi Wanwan demanded coldly with an aloof expression. A man and a woman walked out of the darkness with inexplicable smiles on their faces. Miss Nya, we're very apologetic for not being good hosts by welcoming your arrival to Tianshui City. Who are you? Yi Wanwan asked the two young people. Miss Nya, it's unimportant who we are, but there's someone who would like to meet Miss Nya, the young man said in good humor. Yi Wanwan's brows locked together. She had just arrived in Tianshui City but was already discovered and tracked. The person who wanted to see her must be immensely powerful. It couldn't be. Ajio's mother, Yin Yuerong, right? Are you from the Yin family? Yi Wanwan furtively probed. Big Dipper and Fu Mingxi were shocked and reflexively backed away. If they were really freaking from the Yin family, then they were poisonous people, and carried lethal poison in their every pore. The young man and woman met each other's eyes before shaking their heads at Yi Wanwan. The man said, You've misunderstood, Miss Nya. We aren't related to the Yin family at all. We belong to the Arbitration Council. It's President Yi who's inviting you. Yi Lingjun. Yi Wanwan was suspicious. She didn't know Yi Lingjun, so why did he want to meet her? You say you're from the Arbitration Council, but do you have proof? Yi Wanwan demanded. The young man pulled out a work ID from his clothes. The President's invitation, they are from the Arbitration Council indeed, 7-star quietly said to Yuan. They didn't even need to differentiate whether this work ID was real or not, since there wasn't anyone who'd dare to impersonate a member of the Arbitration Council in the 12 independent states, especially in the Arbitration Council's headquarters, Tianshui City. Since President Yi wants to see me, I naturally can't refuse him. However, I don't know President Yi at all, so may I ask, why does President Yi want to see me? Yuan questioned curiously. Unfortunately, we don't know the answer to that, Miss Nya. The President naturally has his objective for seeing you. If Miss Nya wants an answer, you can only ask the President. We can't tell you anything, the young man said. Yuan secretly sneered. Yi Lingjun was seriously haughty. On second thought, he was the President of the Arbitration Council, the symbol of pinnacle power in the 12 independent states. She was indignant. This seriously wouldn't do. Forget about a minor president fearless like her, but the President of the Arbitration Council probably only needed to utter a word and he could see anyone he wanted. All right. Yuan had no choice but to nod and agree in the end. After all, this was the President of the Arbitration Council she couldn't refuse even if she wanted to. And it was perfect for her to go and complain about the direct line. Please halt. The young woman blocked Big Dipper, 7-star, and the others and said expressionlessly, apologies, but President Yi solely wants to see Miss Nya and didn't invite the rest of you, so you cannot follow. My temper. Big Dipper turned furious immediately and drew up his sleeves. Are you looking down on us? What about your Arbitration Council President, huh? He's awesome and a big deal, huh? However, when Big Dipper saw the young woman's expression gradually turning displeased, he suddenly smiled. That's right, the President of the Arbitration Council is awesome and a big deal. Please send my goodwill to President Yi. I love him, I respect him, he's my idol. Read more chapters at List Novel. Yuan. What kind of sin did she commit? Why did she want to bring Big Dipper here? A moment later, Yuan boarded the car, and they drove toward the center of Tianshui City. Halfway there, Yuan asked, we aren't going to the Arbitration Council's base, right? The man smiled faintly. No need to be nervous, Miss Nya. We aren't going to the Arbitration Council. President Yi is giving a lecture right now, so we're heading to where President Yi is giving a lecture. Yuan didn't say anything else but entered a cautious and defensive mode. The second either of these two acted abnormally, she would attack. However, the reality proved that she was overthinking it. This chapter is scrapped from Read Light Novel. Soon, the car stopped in front of a lecture hall. Yuan followed the two people inside. What met her was an exquisite-looking man with a head of long black hair giving a lecture with a dignified and solemn expression. Confusion instantly covered Yuan's face when she saw the man. Wasn't this man the silver-haired man she met back in China? Yuan surmised that the silver-haired man was He Lianjue. But she never saw He Lianjue's face before since he wore a mask every time they met. Back in China, the silver-haired man appeared and they met. The silver-haired man's QQ signature clearly stated that worryless Nya was his disciple. Hence, Yuan guessed that the silver-haired man was probably He Lianjue. However, upon closer examination, the man in front of the lecture hall might look identical to the silver-haired man from China, but their demeanor was as different as day and night. This type of aura emanated from someone's bones, so it absolutely couldn't be feigned. As for He Lianjue, he was an utter old demon and incomparable to this man before her. No one was capable of pummeling him. Yuan was stunned and murmured to herself, could they be the same person, or perhaps He Lianjue is President Yi's twin brother. Otherwise, there was no way they could look so similar, right? Yuan was deep in thought when the young man said, Miss Nya, the president's lecture hasn't finished yet. Please wait momentarily. Okay. And so, Yuan found a spot in the back to sit down and started listening to President Yi's lecture since it was a rare opportunity. Yi Lingjun was extremely prestigious, and no one in the independent state didn't know him. Yi Wanwan was no exception. The man on the stage looked to be in his 40s. His long, black hair was casually tied behind him. He wore a long, white robe with silver embroidered borders, contributing to his immortal Taoist persona. No wonder he was the top master of the 12 independent states. He truly had the demeanor of one. In martial arts, although there are differences in talent, what remains unchanged is morals. In the realm of martial spirit, martial morals are at the peak. Regardless of how martially talented someone is, if their morals and virtues are lacking, they won't be considered the best. What a martial practitioner trains is their temperament, and what they should avoid the most is being aggressively competitive. On the stage, Yi Lingjun's lecture won everyone's reverence, and even Yi Wanwan felt her spirit elevate and started feeling ashamed of her previous competitiveness. At the same time, Yi Wanwan was more certain of one thing. The man on the stage absolutely couldn't be that old freak that everyone loathed in the independent state, He Lianjue. He Lianjue might be extremely accomplished in martial arts, but his virtue and character were truly too terrible. In Yi Wanwan's memory, that guy was so abominable that everyone wanted to hold him to the ground and pummel him, but unfortunately, no one was capable of pummeling him. After the lecture ended, Yi Wanwan followed the young man and woman to the backstage. A moment later, Yi Lingjun slowly entered the backstage. President, the young man and woman immediately greeted him as they walked forward. So this is Miss Worryless Nya from Yun City. Yi Lingjun's gaze landed on Yi Wanwan. Although the man carried the imposing aura of a leader around him, it wasn't imperious or overbearing and didn't make people feel too suppressed. That's right. We've invited Miss Nya here. The young man nodded. Yi Wanwan turned to Yi Lingjun and imperceptibly surveyed him before promptly standing up. Hello, President Yi. May I boldly ask you a question? Yi Lingjun nodded. Of course you can. What do you want to ask, Miss Nye? Yi Wanwan was seriously too curious and couldn't help but ask, may I ask, do you have a twin brother or something? When Yi Lingjun heard this, his expression didn't shift at all, and Yi Wanwan couldn't detect any flaws. I don't. Why do you ask, Miss Nye? Yi Wanwan shook her head and stifled the question in her mind. Nothing. Why did you have someone bring me here, President Yi? I heard that you provoked quite the wave in Yun City and declared that you would amend the rules and structure of the independent state. Is that correct? Yi Lingjun asked Yi Wanwan. Yi Wanwan was startled. In the end, Yi Wanwan nodded. That's right. Doesn't President Yi also think that the independent state's rules and system are too decrepit? Some of the rules and structure of the independent state were passed down from ancient times to the present. They aren't something you can amend simply because you want to, Yi Lingjun responded indifferently. I don't think so. For example, the rule that residents of the independent state can't marry outsiders. Why? What's wrong about deciding one's own life partner? Yi Wanwan retorted with a frown. These are rules left behind by our ancestors. We must obey them and can't change them merely because of an individual, Yi Lingjun said. Even though they aren't reasonable. What kind of old friend are they? The current world was extremely open, but the independent state remained so stagnant and conservative, sealed off from the rest of the world. It could be described as inhumane even. If they continued like this, they would eventually march toward destruction. If the rules exist, then they are reasonable. Moreover, the independent state has its unique characteristics. Since the ancestors' rules were executed for so long, they naturally have their own reasoning. Yi Lingjun was worthy of being a great master indeed. Normal people were no match for his debate skills. Moreover, Yi Wanwan didn't think a few words from her would be enough to persuade the president of the arbitration council. Hence, Yi Wanwan didn't waste any more words. So did you send people to bring me here merely to say this to me, President Yi? Of course not. Follow me. Yi Lingjun then walked forward. Yi Wanwan was perplexed, clueless about Yi Lingjun's objective. However, he was the president of the Arbitration Council, the most powerful and supreme leader of the 12 independent states, so he just had to snap his fingers secretly if he wanted to harm her. He didn't need to go to such great lengths. Hence, Yuan didn't consider it for too long before following him. Yuan then boarded a car with Yi Lingjun and arrived at a private home. "Come in." Yuan followed Yi Lingjun into the house. After they went inside, Yi Lingjun had the young man and woman leave, leaving behind just Yi Lingjun and her inside the house. "President Yi, speak frankly." Yuan got right to the point. She truly couldn't figure out why someone with his reputation and status needed to seek her out privately like this. Yi Lingjun calmly poured a cup of tea for Yuan before giving her a meaningful look. "Miss Nya, why did you ask whether I had a twin brother or not earlier?" Yuan didn't try to hide anything and truthfully replied, "Because you look similar to an old friend of mine." "No, you're very, very similar, nearly identical aside from your hair color, which was why I boldly asked you about it." "Oh. Is that so? What kind of old friend then?" Yi Lingjun asked seemingly nonchalantly. Yuan thought about it. "How should I describe him? He's a pretty infuriating guy. If he wasn't so talented in martial arts and no one could defeat him, I reckon all the experts from every faction in the independent state would want to give him a beating. Anyway, he's the absolute opposite of a virtuous and moral great master like you, President Yi." Yi Lingjun looked at her and asked, "Is he someone very important to Miss Nye?" Perhaps it was her imagination, but Yuan felt like Yi Lingjun was rather serious when he asked this question and seemed to care about the answer a lot. This chapter is scrapped from Read Light Novel. However, Yuan didn't pay too much attention to it and casually replied, "It's not a matter of importance. We aren't close." Back then, it was that old freak Hu Yanjue who vehemently harassed her to make her his personal disciple and deployed every trick up his sleeve, making her feel as though her head would explode. Later, Hu Yanjue seemed to have something going on and didn't appear frequently. When he occasionally made an appearance, he insisted on dragging her to watch him fight someone and demanded to listen to her critiques. "Not close," Yi Lingjun heard Yuan's answer, and his expression abruptly stiffened. His fingers around his teacup also started trembling slightly. President Yi, what's wrong?" Yuan was astonished when she saw Yi Lingjun's reaction. "What did I say wrong?" Yi Lingjun was staring at her intently, his gaze accusing and resentful, as though she had committed some outrageous atrocity. What's happening?"